morning, everyone. My name is Amelia, and I'm so happy to be the organizer and also the first speaker of today. I sincerely hope everyone can enjoy this event and get food for thought. When I first arrived at Perkiomen as a freshman, I have never imagined where the lacrosse journey would take me. So now, 3 years later, I find myself in my second year playing lacrosse, a sport I had never heard before I came to America. Before Perk, my only experience in sports was playing volleyball at middle school and soccer in my elementary school. I transferred to Perk through the middle of the year, and I started with playing basketball. After the season ended, a friend invited me to play lacrosse with her in the spring, and I said yes, without the slightest idea about what that was. Little did I know that a simple yes would lead me to one of the most challenging and transformative experience of my life. My first practice, let's just say when the weather was far from welcoming. And it was cold, raining, and the wind seemed to determine to push us out of the field. But the real challenge for me wasn't the weather. As I watched my teammates pass the ball easily with their both hands, but I cannot even pick the ball from the ground. At that moment, I asked myself, am I able to make this? And should I just give up? I know I'm not a good runner, nor a good sport girl at all. The only reason I would like to stay and continue to play lacrosse was because I love to try new stuff and challenge myself. So I stayed, and obviously I'm going to meet some problems during the practice since I choose to stay and play. And yes, those challenges came. I was always the slowest runner, sometimes vomiting after the sprints. I was too weak to finish the gym workout, so sometimes I did cheat. And I was a bench player for the first few games. There were days when quitting seemed like to be the logical choice. And lots of people ask me, if it's hard for you, why don't you just give up? And I also ask myself the same question. But here's the thing, being the weakest player does hurt. It stuck my confidence, but it didn't extinguish the flame inside of me. I wanted to prove, not to the others, but to myself that I had potential and I loved this sport. I didn't want to give up without proving myself and to the others how far I could go. So I pushed on. I spent countless practice hours on practicing wall balls and almost do that every day. And I learned skills and drills from my teammates, watching the game videos, and worked to finish every weight room workouts without cheating. Slowly, I started to see the progress. By my second year, I was playing as a starter for some of the games, and I loved and enjoyed every second on the field. But I wasn't satisfied. I want to catch up like the top players in my team. I want to play like the force on the field. One night, after a particularly hard and tough game, which I played as a starter, I broke down in tears because I felt like I couldn't help the team with my efforts. Despite all my efforts, I was still the slowest, still the weakest, I felt defeated. But I came across a picture on my phone, the one took during this after the third practice at the first year I started playing lacrosse. It was a freezing, snowing, and raining practice after a brutal run in those conditions. 2 rainbows appears in the sky. Until now, I can't even describe how shocked I was at that moment. That picture reminded me when I first started playing lacrosse. Without realizing it, I have become the person who I dreamed to become. I went from struggling doing one bench press to push 10 pounds right now, from barely being able to do a single wall ball to mastering it with both hands right now. From finishing as the last every round to occasionally not being the last. I realize success is not measured by whether we've reached our goals, but by how we have faced the challenges along that way. I may not have to become the strongest or the fastest in our team, but I have grown. All these moments, these struggles, these small victories became part of me. They built the foundation of who I am today. I'm being so proud of myself too. These experiences have shaped me, and they'll live me forever. The result is quite remarkable. I got the MVP of Girls Lacrosse last year. Thank you. And maybe I can judge myself as successful right now, since I had done my best and I grew into what I want to be, and with my hard work and bravery. And also the encouragement and help from my coaches, and also my teammates, and support from my family and all my friends. I found out that on the way to grow, I'm not alone. Like what Perkiomen told us, risk becoming your best. And that's what I continue to strive for. Every day, every game, every practice, every moment, and every day. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Larry Jackson. I am a dean and a lecturer in philosophy at Columbia University in New York City. More important than all of that, though, I was part of the class of 1995 here at Perkiomen. Today, I have the great honor of being a member of the Board of Trustees, and so I am thrilled to be here with all of you today, celebrating the 150th anniversary of this remarkable place. I want to thank Amelia for having the brilliant idea of organizing this, and Mark and Carol for having the not so brilliant idea, but interesting idea of inviting me to participate in it. So I'm very happy to be here. Anger. Goddess sing the fatal wrath of bold Achilles, son of Peleus, which caused the Greeks pain beyond belief and flung brave souls to Hades' dark house, leaving flesh for dogs and birds to feed on, as Zeus decreed. Begin with the rift between the son of Atreus, Agamemnon, king of men, and Achilles. Those are some of the oldest lines in the history of Western literature. They form what we call the proem, or the preamble, to Homer's Iliad. In these opening lines of this very long poem, 15,693 lines in total, the poet is invoking the muse of epic poetry, Calliope, who is the daughter of Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory. The poet, who's mortal and whose memory is fallible, needs to be able to invoke memory, to recite the deeds of these heroes that he will describe. Now, the Iliad in its written form is about 2,800 years old, but it's believed that for centuries before that, this poem was actually recited by memory over 3 days at festivals. So you can see why the goddess of memory was necessary for the poet. Now, don't worry, I have no intention of reciting thousands of lines of poetry today. I only have 5 or 6 minutes, so I'm not gonna do that. But what I want to talk about today is the importance of memory in thinking. And I want to do that in part by contrasting the way in which the ancient Greeks thought about memory and how we talk about memory today. And I'm going to try to convince you that we need to rethink memory in the present, that we need to think about it differently than how we do now. So, to the ancient Greeks, the Iliad was not just an entertaining story. This was actually a form of education. Homer was viewed as the greatest teacher that the ancient Greeks ever had. The two epics that we attribute to Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey, both convey the history of the Greeks as well as their values. If you look at those 8 lines that I just recited a few moments ago, you can see contained within those 8 lines some of the most important elements of the human condition. There's birth, there's death, there's family, there's enmity, there's life and death. They're all there contained in those lines. So the role of memory in the Homeric poems was not simply the virtuosic performances of the poets or the importance of preserving the past and conveying it to future generations. There was also a sense that memory was the only way that people could attain immortality. And you actually see that in some of Homer's poems. In the Iliad, for instance, Achilles, who is the hero of the work, is seen singing about the deeds of earlier heroes. Odysseus weeps at one point in the Odyssey when he hears a poet singing about him. Poetry, stories, memory, these were the ways in which people would live on forever. So this idea of education and of memory and of immortality was so important to the Greeks that when the thinker Socrates came along a few centuries after Homer, and he was a major critic of Homer, actually, he continued to talk about the importance of memory. For the philosopher, thinking takes the form of unforgetting. The word in Greek is anamnesis. And Socrates believed that thinking was a matter of remembering what we knew before we were born, what our immortal souls already knew. Socrates thought that we didn't need to teach, we didn't need to be taught anything. Socrates thought that writing was dangerous because it made our memories weak, and instead what we needed to do was to recover what we had lost before our birth. So the ancient Greek conception of memory that I think is so important focused on bringing the past into the living present, and in doing that, also looking ahead to an infinite future. This, I would argue, is very different from how we think about memory today in the present. We now tend to think about memory in terms of data storage. We think of it in technological terms. We take pictures, we store data. We don't need to invoke muses, we have search engines instead to try to recover the past. Now, this is a wonderful fact of the modern world, that so much of our lives and so much of the past are there at our fingertips. I take great pleasure in knowing that I have with me at any time days worth of music that I can listen to, thousands of pictures of my family that I can look at. And I tell my students all the time that there used to be something called desert island discs. Anybody know about this, right? Where people would think about what are the albums they would take to a desert island. We don't have to worry about that today. It's wonderful. As long as my battery has juice, I can be entertained. At the same time, I can't help but feel that something important is being lost in our lives. And I feel this way whenever I see my students and my colleagues talking to one another without making eye contact because they're focused on the screens in front of them. Or sometimes if I go to a museum or I go to a park and I see people who are taking pictures of works of art and flowers rather than looking at them and spending some time enjoying them. Or when I find myself alone and I start to scroll on my phone. What I see happening today is that our sense of memory is divorcing us from the present. That more and more our lives are mediated by devices that are separating us from one another, keeping us alienated from the world, but never really allowing us to be alone. Because even in my solitude, my device is there. So it makes it difficult for me to daydream, to watch the clouds pass by, or the waves lap the shore, or to think. And this is my biggest concern. I'm worried that today, the way in which we are thinking of memory as the storage of data, as the amassing of experience, is not leaving us room for thinking. And that's because I think there are three basic conditions that are necessary for us to be able to think. The first of these is that we have to be aware of the world around us. Thinking often arises in response to problems that we encounter in the world. And when we encounter these problems, something remarkable happens. We begin to focus on the present as we think about the solutions that we might create, and we simultaneously focus on the past, because we need to understand the histories that led to this moment. If we actually examine the present, we will see that the past is deeply embedded within it, that history is living all around us. It is with us at every moment. And when we encounter problems in the world, that's one of the insights that we realize. The second condition for thinking is being present to one another. So Socrates walked around Athens and he asked people questions. He asked about the meaning of justice, the meaning of wisdom, the meaning of beauty. And it was through those questions and those provocations that Socrates invited other people to think with him together. So we need to be present to other people fully so that we can be invited to share our perspectives, or that we can be receptive to their perspectives, their points of view, their opinions. That's the second condition. The third condition is that we need to be alone with ourselves sometimes. We need to let our minds wander. We need to grapple with our ideas, grapple with our thoughts, and also sometimes just be lost in curiosity and wonder. Those are important experiences. So our reliance on devices is taking us out of the present, making us less present to the world, making us less present to one another, and rarely giving us opportunities to actually be alone and to really think. So what I think we need is we can never go back to the past. We can never be like the ancient Greeks. We wouldn't want to be. But we need to recover some sense of unforgetting, of being able to look at the world around us, being able to recognize it in all of its richness, being able to recognize the ways in which history and the past are part of the present, and at the same time looking forward to solutions that we might offer to the problems that we encounter in the world. And all we need to do is, we don't need a goddess, we don't need to invoke a muse, all we need to do is stop and think. Thank you so much.
That's a tough act to follow. So I am Robyn Hannigan, President, Ursinus College, proud mother of a 9th grade Panther. And of course, you know, I worked on notes, but then I heard you and I thought, wait a minute. He's connecting to the past, and I'm a geologist. So let's go past, or let's think about memory in different ways. How memory not only connects us from the experiences that we're having at the moment, but the experience that others have had all the way in the distant past, and how community, space, place are all built on a foundation of memory. Memory that some would argue we share as a shared subconscious. So I thought back to a moment in my childhood when I was 4, and I was at the University of Michigan with my mother, who was torturing me with making me go to the museum, and how annoyed I was about that entire thing, until I walked into the dinosaur hall, and I met her, and her name was Elizabeth. I named her. She was a Tyrannosaurus rex juvenile. She was premature, right? So she wasn't quite mature enough to have her own children, so she was a child. And I fell in love. And I climbed over the fence, and I wrapped my arms around her leg. And then when my mother told me I wasn't allowed to do that, I told her what I thought about that. It took a good hour to pull me out of that space. And what I remember most from that moment was not just the physical space that I was occupying, but the opportunity that memory created for me, because I go fast forward through high school. I'm getting ready to go to college. I was not a great student. And I had to perform a poem in public. I'm a dyslexic. So the poem that I originally memorized had nothing to do with the words that were actually on the paper. I had to make it up myself. But I remembered back to falling in love with dinosaurs, geology. And I thought, you know, the dinosaurs had it pretty rough. Maybe I can induct my inner dinosaur and I can get through this. So, meanwhile, impatient to mountain ride, booted and spurred in a heavy stride. On the opposite shore lurked Paul Revere, and low as I looked to the belfry height, a glimmer and then a gleam of light. I spring to my saddle, bridle turns, and slowly, surely, 2 lights gleam. And I had to do it on stage, and I still remember it. And that memory, again, built on a foundation of other memories, is connected to a place where I had to perform that in my high school. So then I think about my daughter, the memories she's building here. She drops off, I drop her off first day high school here at Perk. She's been here for her 7th and 8th grade. She jumps out of the car, she doesn't say 2 words to me, and runs off. And I thought, I don't know if I was ever that confident. I don't know if I ever had a connection to place the way that students here do. The way that the memories that are shaped over 150 years of history are actually embedded and ingrained in the students in a fundamental way that you don't have elsewhere. And then I thought about the memories of the planet as a geologist. The planet remembers everything. all you have to do is look. And speaking of what Larry was talking about the connection of just being present, just be in your place. When you're outside, remember that Elizabeth and her friends wandered around here. In fact, Tyrannosaurus Rex didn't. I will tell you, it's swampy here during the dinosaur time, so brontosauruses are romping around, right? So they're pretty cool, apatosauruses, you know. But your big, awesome apex predators weren't hanging around here. That's okay though, because when you go out there, you're going to feel a connection to the earth, feel the ground underneath you. And remember that Gaia, Mother Earth, remembers everything. That the memories that were built on this planet connect us to the past. The memories that are built at this school connect students to the past. And it is because of those memories developed in the past that students like Cami or like me are able to see a future. I want to thank you for organizing this event because it gave me a chance to kind of connect all of the memories and places and spaces to this amazing school. So thank you very much.
Good morning. So I wish I had the confidence to go off the script. And I'm the student from Vietnam and a junior here at Perkiomen School. And I want to begin my speech with sharing a little story. So last summer I had a chance to go back to Vietnam to visit my old school, where I spent 7 years of my life ever since I was 8. And the feeling I got when I saw young students in the uniform that I used to wear, sitting in chairs that I used to sit in, and learning from teachers I used to learn from, was a very inexplicable feeling. I got a very weird wave of nostalgia, of reminiscence, a feeling that I'm sure a lot of you guys have just experienced being back at Perkiomen. I realized then that I will never be able to wear those uniforms, sit in those seats, and learn from those respectable teachers ever again. And memories is all I have now of that school. Not only that, memories are the foundation upon all future knowledge and developments are built for me. Memories is often viewed as something personal, like the story I just shared, but it's much more than that. Memory is a mechanism that allows us to retain and apply knowledge. Every new piece of information, whether it's learned through experience or education, becomes a part of your mental library, stored away for future use. For example, think about learning to ride a bike. You don't master it by reading about it. You did so by falling, by adjusting, and eventually succeeding. Your brain memorizes all the coordination and balance needed, allowing you to develop the skill without consciously thinking about it later. That is the foundation of procedural memory, the type of memory that stores how we do things. However, in Vietnamese, the word nhớ means remember, but it also means miss. What I've discussed until now covers the remember parts of nhớ, but what about the miss aspect? I'll finish off my speech by discussing how memories also form the foundation of our identities and how other people's identities appear in our minds. So by sharing the story. So the other day I was walking around this school with my friend, and as we were walking, she told me, even though we still have a long way to go until graduation, I know that I'm going to cherish these memories of us so much in the future. I'm going to miss this so much, and I want to create as many memories of us as possible, so that if we can't meet often then, these are all I have of you. You see, walking around campus and talking is something that is unique to us. We have never done this with anyone else. That was when it occurred to me that these memories are all that we have of each other later on, and these memories will be the foundation of how we view each other. It tells who we are, what we believe in, and how we understand our place in the world. They help us navigate relationships, make decisions, and create meaning in our lives. I'm certain that in the future, I know these memories with her, my friend, with the sense of missing more than just remembering. As you walk around this campus, you will be missing this campus much more than you're remembering. Memories are not just snapshots of the past, but they're building blocks of our knowledge and the seeds of the future innovation. By cherishing and expanding these memories, by remembering and missing, we're creating a rich foundation of which new ideas and advancements can grow. Thank you.
Wow, okay. Those were really good. So, good morning, my name is Jackson Doris, and I'm a sophomore here. I'd like to start with a quote that states, "Great friendships explain why we hold on to this life so tightly, because it disappears so quickly." And that's from Bono, who is the lead singer of the band U2. I think that you can delve into that quote a little bit more, saying that when you say great friendships, friendships can be family, friendships can be people that you interact with, your peers at school, your coworkers, your family, your extended family. And it's really important that we cherish those friendships and remember how we interact with those people, because they are the building blocks as to who we are. I'd like to talk about memories through the ages, especially interactions and experiences with whether it's people or experiences that you've had, whether it's a concert or whatever it happens to be. And I find that some of those things are vital into who I am today. I'd like to start with my great-grandfather. I called him Papa. He was the best person ever. He would show me everything. He had this sunroom at his house, and he had a bunch of like decorations in it, and he had model trains, and he had this like model trolley system that went around the top of the room on like a little like shelf. And he would show me about how that worked, and it was fascinating to me. It inspired me to like really try and learn why things worked. How does this work? Why does this wheel spin? Etc. And that was really what helped me become more like interested in learning, more interested into trying new things, risk becoming my best, right? And he died when I was 3. So I don't really have that much memory of him. I more have stories that were told to me, that were passed down to me. But those memories are still so cherished in my heart. And his loss really affected me until I was about like 12. And so that was like one of the things that I always was thinking about. If I felt lonely, it was like I associated that with like wanting to be with him again. The next thing I want to talk about is the beach, right? We used to have both my sets of grandparents and my family, which includes my mom, my dad, and my brother. And we would go down and we would walk on the beach. We would go for miles, and we would pick up sea glass. If you don't know what sea glass is, it's basically shards of broken bottles in glass that have, over time, it takes years. The current and the salt water and the sand have smoothed down the edges, so it's like not as sharp, so you can like hold it and it doesn't cut you. And we have probably over 1,000 pieces back home. And so we would go on these walks, and we always had great conversations. Everyone was talking, sharing experiences, and those conversations are really important because it's a shared wisdom that experiences those things that my family was talking about have inspired me or have taught me that I should do something this way and not try to do it my own way because it worked for them. Maybe it'll work for me. Again, continuing with my grandparents, at their house they have a deck, and we used to go out, my brother and I, and then we would go out and we would look at the stars. We would stay up late just so we could look at the stars. And my grandmother would make us a little cup of snacks, and the bottom would always be some sort of treat, whether it was an M&M or like a little Twizzler, whatever it happened to be, and it was like always like, what's at the bottom, right? We would eat the rest of it so fast we could get to the bottom. And then looking at the stars, and we would point out the planes and constellations, and those, it will always be cherished in my memory. Probably my favorite memory in that house. And then more with like events with my closer family, right? Concerts, walks around the block during COVID. That was a big thing. That's how I would say that's how I got through COVID. Was we would, after the school day ended, we would go for the 3-mile walk around the block, and we would just talk, throw the football, whatever it happened to be. But it was really helpful to get out of the house, be outside. We live in the middle of the woods, so it wasn't a lot of interaction, which was really nice during that time. But it was really helpful for me. Vacations, sports games, the list goes on forever. My mom's side of the family does something that we call the Whistler Picnic. And it's a large family get-together where I see my aunts and uncles and cousins and my mom's cousins and some people that I do not know who they are, but they are still family. So those experiences and getting to see my cousins, which some of them live far away, are really important into who I am today because I get to interact with them. I'd like to move on to my experiences here. Right, I've built friendships here that will last forever. I have made memories here that I will never forget. I see my friendships, I see the teachers that I have interacted with, I see those connections lasting for a very long time. And I want to stress that because I am so grateful to be here as a student today. And I'd like to close with, when you leave here today, reflect on what experiences and interactions have built you. Were they mainly positive? Were they negative? Were they lessons that you learned? Were they interactions was it a conversation that you had with someone? Reflect on those experiences. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amelia Garcia, and I teach Spanish here at Perk. That's not my whole name. My first name is Jumpy Vladimir Garcia. It is written Jhompy. Now, it's a strange name. I am actually the only one that I've ever met with that name, but it has an interesting story. My father grew up in Dominican Republic, a small town called Salcedo, which is in the outer parts of Dominican Republic. It is a very small town. Everybody knows each other there. It still is a very small town, but it's a big baseball town. There are a lot of baseball players there. And my father, back in the 1970s, early 1970s, my father was included into the national team of the Dominican Republic. And he started playing baseball with the national team in the Caribbean, Latin American and Caribbean League, which the Dominican Republic won several times. That league started in 1949 with Cuba. My father was also a reader, and he loved the history of baseball. He loved the history of music. He was a collector of music. And he was fascinated by a player named Jumpy. And my mother told me that she wrestled with my dad about giving me that name. And well, he won in the end, and I was named Jumpy. Now, Vladimir comes from a very interesting story. My father went to Georgia to study engineering for a year. And he never became an engineer, but he was given the opportunity to go there. And at that time, back in the 60s, everyone in Latin America was just obsessed with Vladimir Lenin. It was, the Russian Revolution was like alive there. And my father also wanted to name me Vladimir. In the beginning, my mother told me also that Vladimir Lenin, jumping Vladimir Lenin, because you imagine getting a visa to come here. You know what I mean? But my father was an interesting man, and it's the memories that I have of him that make me who I am and give me the memories and the strength that I have as I go through my own life and build my own memories for my children and my family. He later on moved to Puerto Rico. He was playing baseball there and decided, well, now that I have children, I need to get a better place for them, and I need to make sure that they have a better future, not just in Salcedo. And so he stayed there, he got married, and then came to the United States. He went to New York City, Upper Manhattan, which is the Dominican Republic outside of the Dominican Republic. It's just amazing how many Dominicans are there. But here, he worked several jobs, and the memory that I have very clearly of him is listening to music. So my father had a very interesting soul. He looked tough, but he loved classical music, and specifically opera. And so even to today, I love opera. And it's kind of strange how those memories and how those experiences stay with you and build your character, build who you are. I remember when we were little, my brother and I were only two. We were growing up with my father in New York City, as I mentioned, and so we were going to elementary school, and we did not have a babysitter. So my father, who was working, would go and pick us up after school, take us to the library. We had a friend who was a security guard there, and then went back to work and told him, I'll be back for my kids at about 6 o'clock. And then he'll go and pick us up. And I remember just going around the library, and I found, so I love the art ever since I can remember. In one of the aisles, I find a book of Platón, which in Spanish means a big plate. And I thought it was interesting. What is a book about big plates doing here? Right? I wanted to know. So I went on and I started reading. And it was Plato. I just felt fascinated by Plato's dialogues. And then went on and continued reading. Then I found the Republic. Then I found the other the dialogues and was fascinated in such a way that I went to Colombia to do my BA in philosophy and logic. but it's interesting how those memories, how those experiences then live in such a way in your own experience that make that big of a difference. Today, I help my family build their own memories. So we have a lot of family traditions. Memories are also very hard sometimes. As I have gotten older, memories are not the same. I don't remember as much as I used to. But I do things that try to keep them alive. And that is the value of memory for me. They are things that you keep alive as much as possible. And some of them are tough. Some of them are very tough. But I learned that even in tough memories, you learn and you build character. Moving forward, I was 12 years old at that time, junior high school, we used to call it in New York. And there was a kid there who was bullying me. One day I was just fed up with it, and I waited for my dad at the end of school and told him, Dad, I want to learn how to fight. He said, well, the only thing you can do is box. Right? So he took me to the Times Square boxing gym in Times Square, New York. It's no longer there, but it was on the second floor. We go on a Saturday. He takes me there. I go on, I was just fascinated with the pictures of fighters. Wow, interesting. And a man who was there comes to me and my dad and asks me, hey, do you want to fight? I said, yeah, I want to fight. Well, I'm willing to train you. Excellent. I ended up training for over 9 years in that place. And his name, he passed away several years ago. His name was Amelia Tang, a very well-known champion in boxing. And I remember one day when I started fighting at a higher level, I remember the fight. I was fighting with someone who was very strong and very much built. And I remember hitting him with a very, I felt that it was very hard. And he smiled. So that right there, and then I realized, oh my goodness, this is gonna be a long fight. I ended up losing that fight. But what I ended up learning was that there are other people who are better than me, and that's okay, as long as I do the best I could. And that is a lesson that memory has shown me. It's okay to fail, but it's not okay to stay down. You have to get up, learn from your failures, and make them work for you. That memory took me through Colombia, took me through graduate school, and it has taken me through my own personal experiences. So while I don't remember today as much as I used to remember before, I know that when I try hard, when I try to make it better, when I do my best, that is a reflection of those memories. Thank you.
There we go. Good morning. My name is Tommy Winslow. I'm a CD here at Perkiomen. I am going to talk to you today about how memory builds a foundation for knowledge. For anyone that knows me, teachers, close friends, I'm a big history guy. History is my thing. I come from a historical family. My name goes back to the 11th century. My real name is Edward Winslow. I'm Edward Winslow the 35th. Yeah, big tradition there. And that is my grandfather and my father are big history guys. So that's been something that's been rooted in my life since as long as I can remember. I have this vivid memory from when I was 8 years old. I was looking through my dad's bookshelf, and it was this big book called The War. Like I vividly was a soldier in the 101st Airborne Division, so World War II. I pick it up, and I started reading it, as well as an 8-year-old can do. Maybe an 8-year-old reading about the horrors of wars and the best way to develop. But I don't think it had that effect on me. For me, it sparked my love for history. And I think history goes farther than something that's just memorization of dates, people, times, places. Yeah, that may be the foundation for history, but going to a deeper level, you understand what happens, why things happen, and there's correlation between that from what I've gained learning through that. That memory builds the knowledge of. Sorry, let me rephrase. Memory builds the knowledge. Memory. I'm not the best at public speaking. Memory builds the foundation for knowledge through the memorization of the dates, times, people. You can find the correlations between World War II and World War I. Going deeper, you can find the correlations between the United States and the Roman Empire. From the people, places, dates, documents you need to memorize, you establish that you can fully become knowledgeable of this one area in academics, would find the connection into other areas, whether that be philosophy for me, understanding why people think and make the decisions that they have, has allowed me to gain a deeper level into history, my first love. It has allowed me to gain more knowledge and insight into my favorite thing, history, which has allowed me to grow as a person, student, and something that I'm going to pursue in college, philosophy. All from the foundation of the war, World War II. Understanding dates, times, people has allowed me to build knowledge and gain insight into more things. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Sophia. I'm from Georgia, the country. I do not think that my speech would be as exciting as the ones that were said before, but what I do believe in is the fact that memory is as much part of the past and future as it is part of the now. Memory is a diary that we all carry back with us, Oscar Wilde. People often spend most of their lives thinking about the future. As children, we dream about growing up just to not go to bed so early. Later, we set goals for our future lives and imagine what they will look like. And so we go on and on dreaming about that one day when everything we desire so passionately becomes our now. Time, the indefinite continued progress of existence and events in the past, present, and future regarded as a whole. It also isn't a construct created by human or convenience. We can control it, but time can control us. In our relentless pursuit of future, we often overlook the beauty of the present moment. These moments, seemingly insignificant, are the building blocks of our memories, the foundation upon which our lives are built. Think about the laughter shared with friends, or the time you felt hurt by someone. The time when you felt so good you didn't want the moment to end. These are not just fleeting moments, these are the sense of life itself. Memories have a profound power. They remind us of who we are and where we come from. They ground us in times of uncertainty and provide comfort when the world feels overwhelming. There are personal time capsules capturing emotions and experiences that shape our identity. So while it's important to dream and plan for the future, let us not forget to cherish the present, appreciating the richness it brings to our lives. Let us create memories that will not only sustain us, but also inspire us as we go forward. In this fast-paced world, where time seems to slip through our fingers like a sand, let us hold into these moments tightly. Let them be our anchor and our guide. When we look back in our lives, it won't be the material possessions or achievements that define us. It will be the memories we've created and the love we've shared. As we stand here today, or sit here today, let us commit to living fully in each moment, embracing both joy and sorrow with open hearts, and building a life rich in memories that will last a lifetime. Because ultimately, it is these memories that build the foundation of who we are and who we will become. Thank you.
Hello. Hello. I am Louise Roost. I'm a faculty member at Perkiomen School. I'm the director of the Design Institute, also the art faculty. 150 years, this is a big deal, so I'm very excited to be here today to speak to you all. So, our individual memories, our experiences shape our perceptions. They shape our decisions. And each decision leads to another. Decisions on top of decisions, brick on top of brick. We're building our tomorrows on top of our todays. Students, you're building a foundation now. Your masterpieces will come later. A foundation supports supports the structure above it. Digging in the dirt is a prerequisite to reaching for the sky. The piles of earth we move here, our struggles with our different stones, will be out of sight and out of mind, buried by the lives we live, and then in the memories left behind. Behind our updated facades, beneath our wealth of experiences, we are all here supported by a shared foundation, Perkiomen. This school is a prominent piece in all of our individual lives. And the opposite is also true. We are each a piece of this place. As a group, we are the many stones that together make up the foundation of something evolving, something growing. A part of a perspective that changes and a history written and forgotten and sometimes revived. Together, we are Perkiomen's memory. The students of Perkiomen have, for 150 years, built a great many foundations here. On top of them, they've gone on to build families, careers, businesses, legacies. And they've come back to this campus's foundations, to these roots, generation after generation, giving in gratitude back to the next generation. Together, they are a part of a single memory, a single architecture, Perkiomen. A structure we build together, and also a keystone in each of our structures. In that vein, let's take a very short trip down memory lane, where in 1875, a young person named Charles Samuel Witten founded our school as Perkiomen Seminary. When I say young, I mean he was just 27 years old. I doubt he had any inclination at the time that a century and a half later, we'd be gathered here to pay homage to thousands upon thousands of individual foundations that have spread from his initial humble excavation. Perkiomen was not Reverend Witten's destination, but instead served as a piece of his own foundation. He served the school for 9 years. Over the next 8 years, Perkiomen almost disappeared. It was reborn in 1892. That year, there were just 4 teachers and 19 pupils here, and Dr. Oscar Preble took the helm. He would lead for the next 40 years, and Perkiomen began to blossom. By the turn of the century, we'd become a community boasting 30 teachers and an enrollment of over 300 students. The school's first international student arrived from Korea in 1896, soon followed by Mexico, Cuba, Thailand, then Siam, and China. In just those first few decades from its inception, the Perkiomen population came to represent students from all over the United States and from dozens of foreign nations. We started out coeducational, became a boys' school for about 50 years in the middle, and coeducationalized in 1969. Now, more than ever, we pride ourselves on being a diverse, far-flung community whose vast backgrounds, talents, and accomplishments are all born from a vast but singular repository of memories. You all take from this repository, and you all give back to it. The memories of Perkiomen span centuries, a network that spreads all around the earth. They connect us with the past, present, and future. Just as Reverend Witten could not have known the impact a handful of decisions made in his 20s would later have on our lives today, neither can any of us predict the actions we take as individual members of Perkiomen. From the grand to the infinitesimal will grow to affect countless infinite futures. 5, 10, 50 years from now, what, if anything, will you remember about today? 150 years from now, when Perkiomen School turns 300, what will they be remembering about any of us? And more importantly, how will they have been affected by all of us? Memory is not just a reservoir of our past experiences. It is a dynamic and evolving construct that influences who we are and how we interact with the world around us. At its core, memory is built upon the experiences we gather throughout our lives. These experiences are filtered through our senses, emotions, and thoughts, creating a tapestry that defines our understanding of the world. However, it is crucial to recognize that memory is not static. It is subject to change. The way we view an important event or a memory today may not be the way we view it in the future. In short time, our happiness and sadness, our pride and embarrassment, today's hopes and future fears will be distant memories. In 150 years, I wonder how many awkward first dances were stumbled through, how many young hearts broken and lifelong friendships formed, how many tests aced or failed, how many games games won or lost? How many innumerable futures decided and paths were gone? And who can remember? These moments we're sharing will be buried, lost, hidden away and forgotten. Bricks underneath more bricks, covered in dust and decayed by weather. To be excavated and studied by our distant successors. Someday, within our own lineage, we will seem alien. Our discoveries, our memories, all we build, the very foundation of our lives, will someday seem antiquitous, ancient, unknown even to ourselves. Our hardest, softest, most vivid moments will be pressed into stone, buried in mortar, and stood upon. New cities are built upon the ruins of the old, not in spite of them, but because of them. We are here today to celebrate 150 years of the memories of Perkiomen's past, but more than that, we are here to celebrate the next 150 years of Perkiomen's future. As yesterday's memories are the foundation of today, today's memories will be the foundation of tomorrow. The difference is that looking backwards, history is short, but looking forwards, it is endless. Thank you, Reverend Witten, Dr. Preble, all of you here today. Who we are in this moment will someday be forgotten, but who we become together can grow exponentially. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My hope is that over time, people's memories will fade and they'll think that I wrote that. Mark Debbie, head of school. It's my 10th year here. I've grown up in schools, and the thing I want to speak about today reflects back on the importance of these 150 years is built by small moments and small actions that happen every day. My hero was my dad, and I grew up in Pittsburgh with my family, large family, went to St. Edmund's Academy when I was a young boy, went to East Liberty Presbyterian Church. My father became an educator, was deeply involved in youth groups in the church. His joy came from building a foundation for others. And it's interesting when we reflect back on memories, and good memories and bad memories. My father passed away 10 years ago, and that's a hard memory, but it's also a memory, and a good memory, because I draw on him and from him every day. He's not here presently, but I still know his wisdom and reflect on these things, and they strengthen who I can become and the impact I can have on others. When I think of the 150 years, it's a long period of time. The reason we're here today is because of all of these stepping stones, all of these individuals, all of these families, the commitment of so many through very challenging times in our history. You can imagine what it was like going through World War II when there were only a handful of people here, and people returned later on from war to finish their education here. You remember the time just a few years ago where it went dark here, and when the entire world didn't know what was next. That's our own living history. The thing I wanted to focus on this morning is as important as any part of who we have become as a culture revolves around giving. As I stand here in this building that was built many years ago, then expanded upon, then it burned down, and then it was rebuilt, and we continue to help this become a fixture of the future of this institution. We also look in front of us to new growth and new horizons as we look at the student center that'll be completed in June. And then we look beyond that to the fields that will grow and develop new opportunities for the student body in the future. And my goal here is not to be remembered, but for the acts to be something that we can continue to build on and will have a positive impact in the future. And again, that comes from people's generosity. And when when I was a young boy, I heard a story from my dad. I'm the youngest of 5, and my parents grew up without any money. And as my father and mother were both helping out with a youth group at East Liberty Presbyterian Church, which is a gorgeous church in downtown Pittsburgh, they would sing Christmas carols with a group of boys every Christmas day. And so they would have these kids come in. Most of these kids had very little. Some of them were really struggling. And so coming to this youth group was a place in which they could connect with others, and then in turn, through the influence of my parents, they would go out and give back to others as well. And so they would always go to a home of kids that had disabilities and were there for extended period of time, and they would go and sing Christmas carols to these children who weren't able to move around or were really struggling with health issues. And so my parents, again, who had very little, on this one particular Christmas, brought boxes of candy for each of the children who were coming. And when they handed out the candy, all of the kids jumped in and immediately were grabbing and eating it quickly. I'm not sure if there was something very exciting at the bottom of it or not. But for these kids who had very little, this was exciting and important, and we would all be excited about that, for sure. And there was one boy, Ross DeAngelis, who didn't open his box. And Ross's mom was a prostitute. And most days and nights, Ross ended up out in the streets because his mother would have clients. And he ended up being on his own. And I can't imagine that as a young kid, being out on the street. But this became a refuge for this boy, and my parents became a really good connection for him, as did his peers. That was the purpose of the group. So on this day, when they went out to meet these children and to sing carols to this group of kids, he had his box of candy because he didn't open his, because since he had so little, he wanted to hold on to it. This was a treasure to him. When they went from room to room, there was one particular place where the kids were singing, and there was a young boy who had both legs were in braces, so he wasn't able to walk, and he looked very sad when they got there. They started to sing, and Ross would stand right next to him when they did all of their songs. And so then they finally ended up leaving the building, and when they departed, my parents recognized that Ross's box was no longer with him. And my dad said, "Ross, where are your candies?" And he said, "I no longer have them." He said, "What do you mean you no longer have them?" He said, "I gave them to the boy who had the 2 legs and was not able to walk and move." And he was beaming. And they went back, they had dinner, and they had a great time. My father nodded to my wife and knew that she needed to race out and get some more candy for Ross. But he did what filled him up, because somebody had less than or had a greater need than he had in the moment. And that came through the community building. That came through the generosity of my parents, of others. So even though he had a very challenging existence, he knew the value of things that were important. So as an institution, when we talk about the generosity of giving and growing an institution, it comes from building a culture and being kind and being generous and being thoughtful of others is a vital part of the fabric of the 150 years of Perkiomen School. And for all of us that work here, and all the people that work here made a life choice. They're not coming here to make a lot of money. They're investing themselves in the lives of a community and of children. And the payback in the long run is to be able to have memories that we cherish and that we carry with us. And those are founded in good values and doing our best through these challenging growing years and the ups and downs that happen in a history of a school and the history of our own lives. So today I wanted to reinvest in that story. My family has checked in with this boy as he has grown through the years, and he's an important part of our family, although none of us have ever met him. But his act was a powerful one, and those are the memories that I carry with me that help us continue to build and grow as an institution into the future. Thanks, everyone.
My name is Hannigan, and I'm a 9th grader here at Perkiomen. And I'm going to be honest, I'm really uncomfortable with public speaking. So you might be going, but what are you doing? Well, I have memories of speaking in the past, and when I was done, I was so accomplished and proud of myself that I think it's worth the mild panic attack. Today I'm supposed to speak about memories, which I thought would be easy because I have so many of them, but I quickly found out that does not really help. To most people, memories build up who you are and how you act. Usually, a memory is some moment in time that you want to keep for as long as you can, even if it isn't pleasant. When I was a little girl, I told my dad I wanted to learn to ride a bike, and he told me something that left me dumbfounded. He said, "The cool thing about riding a bike is that you never forget how," and I did not believe him at all, actually. The day I pushed the pedals and I started to move while balancing was one of the greatest days of my life, and I still remember that moment. Once winter came, I couldn't ride my bike, and I thought for sure my biker gang dreams were over. And then spring rolled around, and I got my bike and I sat on it. And I thought to myself, how am I going to remember how to do this? But a few seconds later, I realized I was moving. Not well, but at least I didn't eat dirt. I remembered how to ride my bike and once again was proved wrong. Sometimes you don't realize how hard your brain is working to remember to do certain skills. It's truly amazing. You can realize that memories really make up who you are. Memories teach us a lot of lessons and just things we should and shouldn't do in life. If someone has a traumatic event in their life, even if they don't want to, they will most likely remember that for the rest of their life. Remembering this, it helps you make decisions in life that will keep us safe or let us have the best time we can. A light example of this is maybe a student didn't study for their test and ended up failing. Remembering why they failed and how it made them feel will most likely make them want to study again. Unless they're crazy and they like to fail, but I've never met anyone like that. Now, we're all friends here, right? I'm gonna come clean. When I was in 4th grade, I failed a test. And I thought my life was over forever. Spoiler alert, it was not. And I was only a 4th grader. Now, I went home and I cried because I'm an anxious person and there was no stopping my mind from spiraling. And I sat my dad down and I told him we needed to have a tough talk. When I told him I was a failure and a disappointment, he smiled and said with the kindest look in his eyes, "It's okay." I remember that look and that relieving feeling to this day. And when he said that, I felt my shoulders get 10 times lighter. I knew I probably failed from being stressed and not being able to think straight, but they weren't mad. So I went back to school, and the next time I had a test, I remembered what my parents told me, and I just relaxed. The whole time I was taking that test, I was like, you know what, maybe it doesn't matter. You know, I am just a 4th grader. And I got it. The last point I want to say is how memories really make up a big chunk of our personality. You could probably expect this because I'm talking about it right now. Everyone experiences things differently and it makes them unique and acts different from others. If one person grows up always getting what they want, they're probably going to grow is going to get what they want in real life. That's sadly not how it works. And it most likely remembering how they got taught as a child or a teenager, they're going to probably act brattier and more spoiled in their life. Now, someone who grew up and was taught to always treat others with kindness and respect, well, they're going to grow up and they'll be kinder and more respectful towards others in life. I like to think that I'm a kind kid who respects those around me, or at least I really hope so. I think this is from the way I was raised. I have great parents who love me and have given me a great life so far. They taught me to always be grateful and have manners, even though it's kind of backfired on my mom and me annoying her by always saying sorry for stuff I shouldn't be sorry for. Sorry, Mom.
Stop saying.
Sorry. Oh, I mean, not sorry. They have given me all I've ever wanted and needed, and also taught me to appreciate what I have. And even though I'm a very fortunate girl who's going to an amazing school, Mr. Debbie, they taught me to always cherish what I have and never take anything for granted. All these points help show why memories are so important to you and others around you. So you have to make good ones by being kind, making friends, having fun, and stepping out of your comfort zone by doing things like speaking in front of an audience. Well, that's all I have, and thank you for laughing at my jokes. Oh my gosh.
Good morning, everyone. So great to see how everyone's stories are intersecting too. I mean, I could talk about my time I went to the La Brea Tar Pits, but I'll save that for private conversation with her. Yeah, it was really great. I dragged Carl Walsh there earlier this year. I'm from Cape Cod houses, neatly lined up with chain link fences guarding our backyards. And I'm from playing on sidewalks and in the streets, kickball, chalk, bikes, my above ground pool, and neighborhood parties on the 4th of July with sparklers and caps and plastic checkered tablecloths. The poem Where I Am From was written by George Ella Lyon, a poet, teacher, and writer, and it was in response to a line from her friend, Joe Carson's poem, I Want to Know When You Get to Be From a Place. Inspired, Lyons began writing down lists of images representing her origins, and she later shaped them into a poem. The poem is now taught in classrooms worldwide, including here at Perkiomen School, and has inspired I Am From poems, which use a template to help individuals write about their lives. This writing prompt encourages people to explore their backgrounds, their family culture, their childhood home, and experiences that shape their identity, including relationships, hopes, and interests. I'm from a hot, crowded holiday kitchen where you have to stick your head outside the screen door just to be able to breathe, and missing my dad, and being the only child among adults who shared my grief but didn't want to talk about it. I'm from Sunday sauce, not gravy, wine served in little juice glasses, and proudly prepared pastries from Vesuvio's Bakery on Prince Street, each lovingly made to its confectioned perfection. My friend and Perkiomen legend, Paige Longstreth, introduced our school community to the I Am From poems in the 2005-2006 school year. She led our diversity club, along with co-faculty advisor George Edwards, class of 79, to create a Tibetan dream flag poetry project that celebrated the common threads within our community. Through poetry and sharing our diverse experiences, we were able to discover that we're not very different. It's the sounds, the smells, the family experiences, and the meals surrounding the holidays that built our foundation of who we are today. I'm from the pre-dawn quiet of a dark ice rink, where we lay out compulsory figures on allotted patches of ice, each circle traced and retraced upon each other, and it was very boring. I am from the booming music and the freedom of freestyle skating and performing giant leaps of faith, landing on a millimeter of a shiny blade in a spectacular blaze of glory. I wish you could have seen what this dream flag project looked like. Imagine billowing down our hallway, Tibetan dream flags cascading each and every inch of the hallway. And every one of them was carrying an I am from poem written and the fabric decorated by a community member. We learned about living in Cuba, Virginia, China, Korea, and suburban Philadelphia. Through these memories, we could see a glimpse of how others' lives were lived. A one-room tiny schoolhouse, a smoky city, a child jumping into a pile of leaves. I'm from my cinder block dorm in Rural Hall that I make my own with a fabulous pink comforter. Vibrant posters of The Pretenders and Gone with the Wind cover my walls. And I'm from the dingy black box theater of Kay's Hall that explodes into sights and show tunes. I am from weekends at my friends where I find the comfort in their family life. And I am thrilled that I don't have to go home where I have more rules than in school. I am from poems taught me that memories build our foundation by shaping who we are and guiding how we move through life. Memories are footprints of our experiences, both joyful and painful, that form our identity and our foundation. Memories remind us of where we've come from. Memories beautiful, joyful memories can bring us comfort and fuel our confidence, while memories of difficulty can remind us to be resilient. And it's upon that foundation that we continue to build ourselves brick by brick. I am from being independent. My first job, a first apartment made homey with an eclectic mix of well-worn furniture and cheap Sears pieces. I am from the late 80s, happy hours and clubs and experimenting with fashion. I am from big hair, born from the L'Oreal Studio line and Aquanet hairspray that held that height. In relationships, shared memories deepen our bonds, and they offer us a sense of continuing and connection that grow over time. They remind us of the love and support and the laughter that have carried us through. Even in solitude, personal memories act as guideposts, reminding us of our resilience, our growth, and the journey that we've taken. I'm from falling in love and becoming someone's safe place in a world that could feel overwhelming. I'm from sweet moments of parenthood, tiny little hands gripping yours, and the sounds of laughter that light up a room. Bedtime stories that turn into cherished rituals. I'm from the second start of the right and to infinity and beyond. Memories. They connect us to people, places, and moments, to our foundation of not just who we are, but how we were built. Think about songwriters. They tell us some of the best stories. We have our own Tsunami, who recently shared a story of a health journey with us that was very special. They tell us the origin through songs like Jay-Z's December 4th, about growing up in the Marcy projects of Bed-Stuy, or Bruce Springsteen, my fellow New Jersey native, capturing the grit of working class towns in his homage to, I guess it's really my hometown. I am from travel sports, from clanging cowbells and snack stand food, and I am from quiet rides home and long night celebrations. I'm from UConn baseball family. Traveling is our job, and supporting our kids is our passion. I'm from the joy of seeing my son's dreams fulfilled, years of hard work and countless games and practices. And I'm from the memories that are yet to be created, brick by brick, patiently waiting to take their placement. And I guess I forgot to introduce myself. I am Diana Weir-Smith, class of 1985, proud parent of David, class of 2019, and I am the alumni director of Perkiomen. Thank you.
Diana, I am is such an interesting thing. I am is like the foundational thing of life, like we all are, right? great I am, the creator. Tony Coleman, class of 2014. I love this place. This place, actually, honestly, there's a lot of memories I wish I could forget. But honestly, I can't. Like, if I took away some of those foundational pieces from my house, essentially built on the rocks, right? Not on sand, but a strong foundation. If I took those away, then I wouldn't be the person that I am. And I believe I'm a pretty, interesting guy. But I typed in Pittsburgh in my maps this morning, and Siri was like, "Are you sure?" Yes, Siri. But I want to talk about this thing in your brain. It's called the hippocampus. It's like 5 centimeters long. Right? It's like such a small little thing. But essentially, it's like the storage place of like everything, right? I mean, it's kind of where your memories get processed before they go to your cortex, right? But essentially, you have a library, right, full of memories, years worth of memories that get stored in this little 5 centimeter long thing in your brain, right? It's crazy. And essentially, I think about it like, wow, I got a full library. It's a lot of books, right? But when you think about things, you think about your memories, you can essentially go back into your library, pull a book off the shelf, look at it, check it out, see the pictures, all the images that are associated, and kind of like, wow, this is crazy. And the beautiful thing about it is you can close that book, put it back on the shelf, and create new memories. And that's like the most beautiful thing, I believe, in life. Now, the part that connects us is amazing, right? Like, you are all libraries full of information and experiences that are unique to you. And those libraries are to be explored. Like, sometimes we have this social bubble around us, right? We feel like we don't want people to burst our bubble, right? Like the saying goes, oh, don't burst my bubble, whatever. But those bubbles are to be bursted. Like, you have to burst them because you need to learn about other experiences in life. You need to learn about where other people come from, where other people's people have come from, right? And the things that they've experienced in this lifetime. It's a long journey. I mean, 150 years is crazy. I think maybe like 3 of my grandparents put together might make 150. But that's a lot of time and experience. And in that time, we've created these things that are everlasting, right? Past, present, future, all together in one instance, in one moment. Like, hearing, you students recall your memories is like so interesting because it invokes so much emotion in me. I'm like, damn, I remember being at my grandpa's house, I remember reading my grandpa's books. I remember failing tests, like even going back at Perk, visiting the classrooms. I'm like, wow, what class did I take here? I'm like, what was it? Who was it? Oh, Mr. Moser. Oh, yeah. But it's interesting, right? So in this world, well, I probably should scale it down, sorry. But in this community, right, we have the opportunity to engage with each other, right? No phones, right? I was in a time crunch, so I didn't write my notes on paper. But take those opportunities, put your phone down. Kids and adults alike. Like, this thing is quintessential to our experiences every day. But put it down and take a chance to talk to each other. Even someone you might not even talk to. I think the last time I was here, I was like, wow, I really wish I got involved in the plays. I was like, man, I was so focused on being an athlete. I'm like, I probably should have done a play or two. And now, like, I'm a performer for my profession. You know, so it's very interesting how life comes full circle. And that's the beauty of time and memory. It's not linear, it's cyclical. So anything that has happened in the past will inevitably happen again. Whether it's in your life or a parent's life, nephew, cousin, auntie, uncle, grandpa, whoever, you know, their experiences are your experiences right now. Like, your grandpa might have worn that same polo, you know what I'm saying? The same shoes, maybe, probably different shoes. Huh? But sometimes you go looking for a memory and you uncover some that you forgot, right? Which is kind of crazy to think there's some memories that are so prominent at the time, and you know, time passes and you forget those things. But even driving here, like looking at the foliage, I'm like, wow. I remember the bus rides coming to campus with like my 2 duffel bags and my suitcase. Like, yeah, I'm ready for school this year. And just like smelling the chocolate in the Pittsburgh air. I'm like, damn, I remember days going to the gym on the weekends, you know, smelling that chocolate. It wasn't, I got tired of it, but it's a good memory regardless, you know, smells, sights, sounds, tastes, textures. As Diana said, they trigger specific memories and moments, which is beautiful. But to give you all a short backstory, 2014, senior year, I think it was like April, maybe, lacrosse field, I guess, where behind where the new student center is being built. We were in practice, and I'll make a long story short, I got a concussion, went to the Quakertown Hospital, and the doctors were like, you might need to go home. You might need to go home for a second. So I went home and got some tests, and I got a CAT scan, and they found out that I had a brain aneurysm, roughly the same size as my hippocampus. Which is kind of crazy because it was in the artery, one of the main arteries in my body. So they couldn't remove it, and I was like a little nervous, but I was like, you know what? Nah, I don't know what this thing is. I have no idea. I'm like a, happy 17-year-old, and I'm like, all right, let's get through this. Let's figure out what's gonna happen. But I had a craniotomy and a bypass surgery, and my life changed in like monumental ways. Kind of made me recall like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have played so many sports. I probably should have done those plays. But essentially, my life changed for the better, and it's a crazy memory because like I remember it so vividly, but so faintly at the same time, right? Like I was in the hospital for about a month, and it's a little emotional for me. I don't think I spoke on it too much at this scale. I guess maybe I had, but I think what it brought for me was a new chance, and every day you have a new opportunity. I thought I needed like this big moment, or this big moment was my opportunity for a change, but over the years I've realized that like every day you have an opportunity for a new chance to change, a new chance for new memories, a new chance to put another brick in your foundation, essentially. It's crazy to think about, but you can continue to build on your foundation. You can put up new beams, right? And you can build on top of what you already have. This life is beautiful, and don't take your memories and those things that you experience for granted. You know, like, man, I'm sorry, I'm very emotional, because I'm like, every time I come back here, new memories, I guess old memories, kind of flood in, and I'm like, wow, I remember making morning announcements up here. But I'll leave you with this. I was looking in my email for some of the more technical terms on my brain surgery, but I was like, that's kind of a little boring. But in 2018, I went on a journey, kind of like self-rediscovery journey, and I ended up in Utah. Don't ask me how. But I was in Salt Lake City, and I was taking the tram back to the airport so I could fly home. And I was sitting next to this woman, and I didn't even know it, but the whole time she was like analyzing, super hyper analytical. And I was like drawing in my sketch pad. I was like, you know, diving deep into my full artist mode. This was about 2.5, maybe 3 years after I had the surgery. And eventually she kind of like, you know, bothered me for a moment, and she was like, hey, she's like, I really like your shirt, I like your outfit, I like your aura, your energy. I was like, oh, thank you, you know? But what I didn't know is that she shared her experience with me to her community, and I got BCC'd in her email, her family update email, and she wrote this. She said, I met Tony Coleman today, 8/11/18, on my birthday. Crazy. Synchronicity, right? His face is slender, eyes intent. His smile doesn't come quickly, more hidden, not spontaneous, yet seems waiting for its opportunity. He's wearing a green cotton pant, top work smock, with the logo welcome on his left side. I like the welcome. He pulled out a fairly large drawing tablet and a Sharpie, fine point, and begun to make strokes on the tablet, but the pen was low on ink. However, he was persistent in making ink strokes, so the pen obliged him. He was attempting to write a name with line swirls. I wanted to ask him if he took art classes, but didn't want to interrupt his intenseness. It goes on, but I shared with her the same story I shared with y'all today, essentially about my brain surgery, and I didn't go into too many details, but the journey that I embarked on after those moments. And she drew a picture of me. You can't see it from here, but it's like an elementary drawing. It's so simple, right? Like she drew me with like a little beard, and like at the time I had long hair. And it's such a simple picture, but it holds a memory, right? And she shared that memory with her community, with her foundation. And I thought that was beautiful. Like, you don't know the purpose that you serve in someone's life, I guess, until you know it, right? Until somebody lets you know how instrumental you are in their life, whether it's for just a moment or for their entire life. But I'm grateful for the last 149 years of Perkiomen, because it made the 4 years I was here beautiful. It made it amazing, and I can't thank the people who came before me enough. But thank you all for being here. I appreciate you again, Tony Coleman, class of 2014. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. To be honest, I was so touched from some speeches and have new thoughts for those memories of our foundations. And that was our last speech. And thank you for everyone for coming today.
Great
Thank
program.
you.